We have breaking news for the Dallas Mavericks today. I'm going to talk about that. And what do you do with the Dallas Mavericks stock right now? Do you hold? Do you fold? Or do you go all in? I'm going to give you my answer on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't eat milk.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Good night. You're locked on the Dallas Mavericks. This is one of your co-hosts, Isaac Harris. And guys, I'm ready to talk about the Dallas Mavericks. A little uneasy right now, but I'm ready to talk about them. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen of the day. Go make Locked On NBA your second listen of the day. And guys, if you're a true Mavs fan, you're already signed up for a Locked On Mavs Insider program. That's our text program through subtext. You get all the latest news, Q&As, all the stuff texted to you. And so many of you guys are already subscribed to our newsletter. It's an email newsletter. You get one email a day with all the latest Mavs news. And guys, we're still number one in the network. Keep us at number one. It's a good way to support the show, and it's totally free. For the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Got a Ravens-Bills game coming up this weekend. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Here we are, talking Mavs. Tough loss the other night as Nick and I were on the postgame show with that. Slightly couldn't make it to that one. And we got the controversial play at the end. And wait, do I hear breaking news right now? Breaking news coming in for the Dallas Mavericks. The last 2-minute report dropped from the NBA. And guys, this is big time news. Like, some people are underrating this, the impact of this on the season, the impact of this just on everything for the Mavs. The fact that the NBA releases this last 2-minute report that, doesn't change any outcomes, doesn't do anything, but the last 2-minute report from the Pelicans Mavs game came out, and this is breaking news part. The NBA says they got it wrong. That the play of Trey Murphy, I want to say blocking the shot off the backboard of Dinwiddie's should have been a goal 10. And so the NBA just, hats off to them. You probably start a slow clap that they admitted that they missed that call. The refs missed that call. And why do we have these? Like, why do we have last 2-minute reports? I just don't understand. I mean, I guess I think the whole purpose behind it is the accountability part. It's like, hey, we want to show the accountability we're given to what happens at the end of the games, that, we will admit when we're wrong. Guys, this is like your boss making a bad decision, like in a meeting. All right. And then they send the all staff, the all company email. It's like, hey, Fred made the wrong decision. Mr. Henderson, I just came up with that last name. I didn't say it because of Kirk. Mr. Henderson, he made the wrong decision today in the meeting, but none of the decisions were changed and none of the outcomes changed either. But you know what? He made the wrong decision. Cool. Like, all right, you're validated. Reading that, it's one of the dumbest things that we have is the last 2-minute report in which it says, hey, the refs were right or wrong. Changes absolutely nothing. So, man, that's great. I'm glad we covered that breaking news right off the top, that the last 2-minute report came out. The Mavs right now, seems like all indication the Mavs are not going to protest this game. And guys, it hasn't worked that often. So I kind of get why they're not. But then again, I've seen a lot of people. It's like, man, this is the case that you could actually win. They have to have their reasonings of and the percentages of winning this case if they're just not going to protest it at all. But it's just tough, right? Like, I think this is one of the things too. It's like I think we're all just amped up right now. It feels like every win without Luka, every win without Luka and Kyrie, it feels like it's like 5 wins. It's like, oh, we won this game without those guys. So then it's just like, whenever you lose one of these games you should have lost, it feels like you just went on like a 5-game losing streak whenever a moment like this happens. And, I think it's so frustrating too, as I'm sure a lot of you guys that are watching or listening to the show, is you're watching these other NBA games that's happening. And you're watching League Pass, you're watching, TV, today, and it's like, all right, cool. Like y'all, the refs reviewed this, this play, a 3-pointer if a foot's on the line or not. I'm like, or some of these other things, and like, you review that crap, but you can't review a play that decided the game. Am I still salty about that? Yeah, I'm still salty about it. It's frustrating. Come on. I'm not as salty as like, hey, you missed it in the moment. We're humans. We make mistakes. Yes, one of you that were out there working your job should have seen that. I mean, it's just, I don't know, the only play that's happening on the court. But it's like, you should have seen if that was a goaltender or not. But you know what? Hand out a little grace. Little Pastor Isaac here. We all need some grace, right? I'm more frustrated with the review system. Of like, we review so much different stuff and we can't review that. That's what pisses me off. The Mavericks have a game coming up on Friday night. A team you might have heard of, the Oklahoma City Thunder, who played the Cleveland Cavaliers. That game just ended as I hit record on this podcast, and that was a blowout. So, yeah, OKC looked really, really good. Cleveland did not, and OKC is missing Hartenstein. So, yeah, they have that game on Friday night in Dallas, which, best team in the league coming in, or for the most part, them or Cleveland. And Dallas is probably going to be missing some people. We'll see. At the time of recording this, I don't know anything about Kyrie, but we'll see what happens or who plays on Friday night. But I think the biggest thing right now is, and this is what I want to spend the rest of the podcast on. As a Mavs fan, we're halfway through the season, right? We are at the 41 game mark of the regular season. And I think you kind of like got to decide, it's like, are you going to like, a good like country term, I grew up in Kentucky, is like waller. Like, are you going to waller in the mud? Are you going to kind of just like lay in the self-pity of it or be like negative? Or are you going to try to be like too positive? And then everybody's like, you're super annoying. You're just like naive to everything. Or are you going to try to be like in the middle? And this is where I kind of like put it in the analogy of, it's kind of like a card game. And are you going to go all in and still like hold true to it? And you're like, you know what? I know the odds are against us right now. I know all the stuff that's happening, but I still think we're winning the NBA finals. You're going to push all your chips in and go all in. Or are you going to sit back and you're going to say, you know what? I'm just going to hold right now. I'm going to hold and see what happens. Or are you folding? Are you saying this season is cursed? This is the season from where. Like this is the season that it's just none of it's making sense. All the stuff's going wrong. I think we just need to just fold in and just call it right now in the season. Luka's not healthy, all this stuff. Are you all in? Are you pushing hold right now on your hand? Or are you saying I'm folding, I'm out? That's what I want to talk about for the rest of the podcast, because I want to give your answer. I want to give my answer coming up after we talk about some Robinhood.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
This podcast is brought to you by our friends at Robinhood. Guys, with Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. For Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get a 4% APY on your cash and non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up to Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. A 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year. For the first match, must keep fund in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost over 8 times the national average of savings account interest rate is claimed is based on data from the FDIC as November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. There you go. There's Robinhood Gold. Bam.
Shut it down! Oh, let's go home!
Should we do the break bumper? Here we go. Insert break bumper. Jams. See, that's what y'all wait for. I know. Oh, dang, it's replaying now. All right, never mind. I know what y'all do. Y'all hit skip on it. Y'all hit skip on the ads. And then you wait to hear that music. And then you're back. All right, here we are. Let's talk about this a little bit more of where I'm at. So I'm in the hold pattern. All right. I'm not. Before the season, I was like, hey, I'm picking the Mavs to win the title. All right. Right now, halfway through the season, I'm just saying I got to hold. I'm not folding on this team. And I'm going to tell you why. I think there are some, and this isn't a, hey, I'm going to, put on my Mavs hat. Oh, this dude's back working for the Mavs. He's just going to tell us everything we want to know, and all this stuff. And yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be overly just like, rainbows and sunshine here. But also, if you want to, if you want to say, if you're in the camp of like, hey, this season's miserable, I'm done with this Mavericks team, then this probably isn't the rest of the pod for you. Because I do want to talk about a little bit of, if you want to say positives, I want to talk to you a little bit of a few reasons why I'm holding on and I'm not folding on this Mavericks team. There's a couple different things real quick before I give you a couple of reasons of why the season isn't like the doom and gloom worst season ever. So Luka, Kyrie, Lively, and PJ, I think they're the 4 most important players on the team. They're not out for the season, all right? I think if one of those guys was out for the season, super big bummer, right? Like this is the thing of some of you are like getting real mad right now. They're like, oh, you're just telling me how it could be worse. It's like your parent that is like, man, my day sucked today. And your parent comes home and is like, yeah, son, let me tell you about my day sucking. It could be worse. And it like dismisses your day and you get like super frustrated. Well, that's kind of what I'm doing right now. But there's still a point to it, right? It could be a lot worse if one of those guys was out for the season. But they're not. And those are the 4 most important players on the team. To where if you're like, hey, Luka's out for the season, Kyrie's out for the season, even like a Derek Lively, if he was out for the season, it's like, man, I don't know if we could get to that final goal without him. And PJ is the one. It's like if they say right now PJ Washington's out for the season, and you're like, man, can we get back there? Like I know, but it's just like he's such a irreplaceable player on the team. Another thing about this team about how it could be worse, the vibes seem really good. Like we don't have any articles that's hit anything. It's like, dude, the vibes are off. They hate each other. All this stuff. Everything about the vibes about this team still seems awesome. All right. Next thing, outside of OKC. There's still not a team in the West that like scares me. Like, right? Like outside of OKC, if you tell me that they're matching up with any of the other teams, I mean, Memphis is looking really good right now, but if you're telling me they're matching up with Houston or even like a Denver or a Minnesota or a Memphis or something, I'm still not going. Like if they're healthy and they go into that season or they go into that series, I'm not sitting there saying, man, I'm scared. I'm not. So it's like those 3 things right there still makes me that's what makes me hold the most of like, you know what? I don't think we should give up on this team yet. It could be a lot worse. And there's a reason to have a lot of like hope behind that. Let me continue on with something. So one of the things I feel like a lot of us are talking about over the past, I don't know, week or a couple weeks is the supporting cast. And I've seen a lot of stuff of like, man, I thought this team was deep. But now I was fooled. Like this team isn't that deep, or you're looking at other teams and sorry. You're looking at other teams and you're like, man, they're going through injuries. Why do we look like we can't beat anybody or we're struggling so hard and we have injuries? Why can't we look like one of those teams? And I just want to like pause just for a second before we come up with any like huge, just like, extreme takes about the supporting cast. This is an offense that's built around Luka Doncic. This is whether you like it or not, it's a heliocentric type of offense. And you get it, right? Like this is what you do when you have an all-time guy like a Luka Doncic that is a playmaker, that generates the offense that he does. I mean, he's an all-timer, okay? You create the offense around this guy. You go out and you get the pieces that fit alongside Luka Doncic. You go out and you get a Kyrie Irving that fits alongside Luka Doncic. It fits. They've been to an NBA Finals. It works. It fits. So you got to say that first. This isn't like, hey, the star player and your star player is your point guard in Luka Doncic. And so then you have all the other pieces. So I say that's like, all right, go back and look at that Rockets team in 2017, 2018. And I know some Mavericks fans get really upset and like, don't compare him to Harden. Don't compare, like, it's not the same. I get it. I get the frustration. But look at the makeup of that team. They looked at that Houston team, that 2017-18 Houston team, took a James Harden and they said, you know what? We're going to build this offense and build these players and everything around you. We're going to put the ball in your hands and we're going to build this sucker around you. They go out and they get a Chris Paul, another secondary playmaker, but then they have all these shooters. They have these bigs that roll to the basket, Clint Capella, different stuff. And it's like, all right, here we go. That team was, to some, a Chris Paul injury away from beating the Warriors, who are at the peak of their powers, and one of the best teams or one of the better matchups against the Warriors and going to an NBA Finals. And some people want to go, and this is like the what ifs and all this stuff, that team could have won the title that year. But the Chris Paul injury and all the stuff, and we know how history played out. So what if you take James Harden and Chris Paul off that team? Now, what are you asking the other players to do? So now you're running the offense and you're asking everything to run through Trevor Ariza, PJ Tucker, Ryan Anderson, Eric Gordon, Clint Capella. Like those guys, you're not running a team. You know what team doesn't look good without James Harden and Chris Paul is that 2017-18 Houston Rockets team. And I feel like there's some similarities in that right now Dallas is looking at when Luka is out and Kyrie's out. And heck, if you want to say Dante Exum's out too, you're missing your three best ball handlers on the team, your three best creators, the three best guys that can run the offense on the team, and you're missing your two stars. So now you're taking the supporting pieces that were brought in to play alongside Luka and Kyrie, and you're saying, hey, we need y'all to run the show. That's what I'm trying to say. That team right there, that Houston team, it went 7 games with that Golden State Warriors team, an all-time Warriors team. So I think their supporting cast was pretty dang good, and it fit alongside their players. And I don't think you're looking at that supporting cast saying, man, those guys suck. Oh, man, we're not very deep or anything. No, that team was really good because all the pieces fit. I think this Mavericks team is really good because all the pieces fit. It's just we're missing the two main guys in which all the pieces fit around. And now you're asking a Spencer Dinwiddie to play the Luka Doncic role, which isn't very good. You're asking Klay Thompson to do more than run down the floor and do the catch and shoot shots or pump fake and do dribble in and take a mid-range shot. You're asking some of these other guys that just play a little bit out of position, with the exception of like a Jaden Hardy. Like you're asking almost every single one of these dudes to do a little bit more than what they were brought in to do, and a little bit out of position more. And guys, that's just not the makeup of this team. They're going to struggle. And I'll say this, Jason Kidd's also not the greatest like X's and O's, like changing schemes coach either. Like Jason Kidd's a great motivator, a great connector, a great relationships guy, a great bringing the best out of your stars and put, the pieces around the guys and stuff. It takes like for Luka and Kyrie to be out and then like shift all that stuff. I think it's for it to work and you to like win a ton of basketball games, you got to really hit everything perfect of like some of these guys having career games. The coach has the perfect game plan and all the different stuff. So I say all that to say of like, I'm holding on the Mavericks because I'm not sitting there saying the supporting cast sucks because they're not beating all these teams without Luka and Kyrie. I think that's unfair to them. And I think these pieces fit alongside Luka and Kyrie. The reason they were brought in, because we've actually seen it been like done before. So actually, that's what I want to talk about coming up after this.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
This podcast is brought to you by our friends at Skims. Guys, I'm loving me some Skims right now. When I first found out Skims, I didn't even know they made underwear for men. But when I found out, I was super intrigued. I've heard a lot about the quality from friends and family. So I was like, all right, I got to give it a try. Skims sent me some underwear, and they're game changers. All right. They are game changers. I like to do the briefs, and I'm hooked. I want more of them. They're perfect for any active lifestyle. They move with me. They never lose their shape. They stay in place all day. This is the best ad read. I love this. Whether I'm working out or just running errands, they're the most comfortable and reliable underwear I've ever owned. That is very, very true. Plus, the lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. Whoa. Shop Skims men's at skims.com/lockedonnba and Skims stores. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show, Locked On Mavs, and the drop-down menu that follows. Maybe that will result in me getting more Skims. So make sure you do that. So anyway, go to skims.com/lockedonnba. You got to get some Skims there. All right. Next, our podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, y'all know we've been friends with FanDuel for a super long time. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting coming up this weekend. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep your action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No more waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs. Sounds like Cowboys fans. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
We back for the final segment here. All right, so another thing that I've been thinking about of why I'm holding on my Mavericks stock right now is I think we have the least amount of question marks going into the playoffs if we're all healthy. Because yes, if you said right now, hey, we don't know if Kyrie's going to be healthy, we don't know if Luka's going to be healthy, sure. If you want to sit there and try to bet on the injury stuff, good luck. That's you. I can't figure out if injuries are going to happen or not. But when you look across the league and you're sitting there saying like, well, who has the most like confidence going into the playoffs if everyone's healthy? I think the Dallas Mavericks should have a lot of confidence going into the playoffs because look at some of these other things. Like the Cavs are having an amazing season, right? Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, Allen, all those guys, what Atkinson is doing. I love that Cavs team and everything. Have they been there, done that before, and made it to an NBA Finals? No, they haven't. So still in the back of their minds, as confident as they can be, they still got to figure out if it works in the playoffs. They still got to figure out if it's enough I don't even know. Like I don't want to like try to discredit the Cavs because I'm not. They still got to figure out if it's enough. And if that grouping of players can make it to an NBA Finals. Kind of the same thing about OKC, right? Like as much as like SGA, almost said SVP. As much as we talk about SGA, who's probably the MVP front runner right now, and deservedly so. How good they are defensively and what they did to the Cavs last night, and they brought in Caruso and Hardenstein. They got better from last year and all the different stuff. They still haven't done it, so they still have in the back of their minds too. Of man, like we got whooped in the second round last year. Like we got embarrassed by the Mavs, and that's as far as this crew has went. So it's like they're confident, they're excited about their team, and they're probably the best team in the league right now, but they still haven't done it. there's still that question in the mind of like, can we do it? Or do we have the right makeup of the team? I think in the same vein, you say the same thing about Memphis. It's like they've had the injuries. They've had some of the jaw stuff. They've had injuries with Jaren Jackson Jr. It's like, will this collection, can this core put it together to make an NBA Finals run? Well, they haven't seen it yet. So they got to figure it out. Every team's got to figure it out for the first time, right? You could look at Houston, like, Houston's probably like, we just got to figure out what we have, right? Like, if they don't make a big trade right now before the trade deadline, they're probably going into the playoffs saying, hey, let's make the playoffs. Let's get to a playoff series and see what we have in some of the young guys before we make a decision on who we want to consolidate and send out, or what kind of star do we need? Do we need a point guard? Do we need a guy at the end of the games? Is Şengün a guy in the middle that we have forever? Like, they're still trying to just figure out what they have and if what they have is enough to make a deep playoff run to an NBA Finals. I mean, do we want to keep going? Like, you look at the Clippers and it's like, does all this fit? Like, Paul George is gone, and it's like, the Kawhi's already been back. Is the injury stuff? Can all this fit together to make a Finals run? I don't know. They haven't done it. James Harden, been a while since he's been to an NBA Finals. Minnesota, does Julius Randle fit? Like Towns is gone. You made it to a Western Conference Finals last year with a lot of the same guys, and Anthony Edwards and Gobert and different McDaniels and stuff, but still the vibes are weird. But are they hanging their hat on, hey, we made the conference finals last year, but it was with Karl-Anthony Towns? Your second best player is gone now. I think the only one that's kind of similar to Dallas is Denver. Even they lost, they lost KCP and stuff, but like, I think Denver can step back and have a similar mindset as Dallas of like, hey, but they've actually like won a title of like, we went to an NBA Finals and won a title with the core of Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., and some of these guys. Yes, the bench, unit has changed and stuff then, but the main core of the rotation, they've shown that they can win at a high level. However you feel about Jamal Murray, even though he torched the Mavs the other night. But I think it's that type of mindset that if Dallas is healthy and we go into the playoffs, I think they should have the most confidence of everybody, because they've been there, they've done that with this crew, with these pieces around Luka and Kyrie. And I get it, Derrick Jones Jr., I get it. But still, it's like Luka, Kyrie, PJ, Lively, Gafford, Exum by the time he's going to be back then. Now you add in a Clay and Najee. Like, how many of those? A huge portion of those rotation minutes there. I mean, even the foremost important players on the team, like I said earlier, Luka, Kyrie, PJ, Lively. Those four guys have been to an NBA Finals. They made a playoff run. They beat OKC. They beat Minnesota. They beat the Clippers. So it's like, we've seen this team do it at the highest of levels in making NBA Finals. We've seen what the pairing of Luka and Kyrie can do. We've seen how the pieces fit around them. So if they're healthy and you're going into an NBA playoffs, no matter what seed they are, I'm still going to be pretty confident in this Mavericks team, and they're going to be confident in themselves because they know they've done it. So that's when as you're yelling at me in the YouTube comments, probably, it doesn't mean that they can sit back and be relaxed and like, oh, this dude's an idiot. He doesn't care about the regular season because, man, if they're just healthy, then what if they don't even make it? Valid point. You got to make it first before you can be confident in the playoffs. I get that. Doesn't mean you can sit back and be relaxed and not try to get better at coaching, or some of these guys at Gafford, like, hey, dude, can you rebound a little bit better for your size? And like, we could go across the board and say how individual players can get better or how the team could get better. But it has to give them energy and confidence that if you're right and you're healthy and you've done it, then you can go in the playoffs and you're like, all right, let's do this thing. We've been here before. And not a lot of the other teams, if any of them, can say that they've been there before as far as their core goes. So last thing, someone wrote on our subtext and said, halfway mark of the season, what's your best case and worst case scenario for how the season plays out? I think the best case scenario for how the season plays out is they get healthy by the end of the regular season. They go on a run and they get healthy first. They go on a run in the second half of the season. They still finish with a seed like 3 through 5 in the West, and they're healthy in the playoffs. They avoid OKC in the second round. I think that's the best case scenario of, man, Luka and Kyrie get back sometime the second half regular season. They go on this massive run. There's a bunch of confidence. The narrative shifting about the Mavs, and it's like, dude, okay, they're back, and they finish like third or fourth in the West, and it's like, bam, 3 would be awesome. You avoid OKC in the first round, all the stuff. I think the worst case scenario is they get put out in the play-in, right? Like that's the worst case scenario for me. Is you finish like 8th. It's miserable. You get bad matchups. You're not as healthy, and you go into the play-in and you lose a couple games. Like, or depending on where you're at, you lose one game. Man, that would be tough. Like, so tough. Yeah, and I just think that's the like worst case scenario. It's like that's worse than if you just like wrapped up shop right now and you're like, take it out, all the different stuff. Like, it's worse if you just with a team like they're constructed right now. If you made a play in and you just lost in the play in, that's the season that you had. That's a pretty worst case scenario. I think the likely case, what I think is the likely case to end the season, I think they finish in the 5 to 8 range in the West at this point. I think they have a pretty tough first round matchup and they avoid OKC in the second round. But if they're healthy, I think they go on a deep playoff run. So, that's it. And how's it changed a little bit for me? Going into the season, I thought they would finish third in the West, top 4, home court advantage, all the stuff. So it's changed a little bit for me, right? Like I think they finished 5 to 8. I think they have a super tough first round matchup. Possibly if you face Memphis or Denver or something tough, but not impossible. But I do think they'd really try to avoid OKC in the second round. So anyway, that's just my prediction. That's just what I thought. I'm sure YouTube is really fun today. But I'm holding right now. I'm staying positive. It's not a lot of fun watching this Mavericks team right now. I get it. It's frustrating. It's annoying. It's like, what do we talk about right now? Can these, stars get back? I'm just confident in what the final product looks like. And I think we should be seeing that final product at some point. I don't want to say at some point in the second half of the season, but I don't know how else to say it. So there you go, guys. We'll be back tomorrow night after the Mavericks play the OKC Thunder. And we'll have a post-game pod after that. So peace out. Boom.